We may not have that many outright nominees in America, but we have plenty of cowards and bootlickers, and once those fleshy dominoes start tumbling into the Trump camp, the game is up.
Kennedy's probably 50-50, but he's a fake. He's a fake. He's a total fake. You don't want to... He's more liberal than Joe Biden and all of these communists that work for him. Kennedy's more liberal than all of them.
RFK Jr. has said a lot of dumb shit in his life.
I spent 30 years trying to get mercury out of the fish in this country, and nobody ever called me anti-fish.
And apparently calling Trump supporters Yahtzees, bootlickers, and idiots doesn't make you anti-Trump. But this breaking story about new damning audio of RFK Jr. unearthed by CNN that I'll play for you in a second may actually have been some of the smartest and most truthful things he's ever said about Trump and MAGA, if he didn't flip-flop like a fish out of water immediately after Trump got into power. Welcome to the world of hypocritical idiocracy, where being compared to Schmadolf Schmittler is apparently a badge of honor.
We're so screwed.
And believe me, folks, I know being anti-Trump, calling him Adolfo, and flip-flopping him when it becomes politically advantageous isn't new news, and is in fact a fascist pastime. But as we break this down, I want you to think about how gullible and moronic these people that he's referring to are. The same ones who turn into snowflakes anytime Trump's fascism is brought up by either party, and yet they'll just let this slip, believe the political doublespeak of a guy who's been a Democrat all his life, and say, well, he had his come to Jesus moment, and as long as he's on our side now, it doesn't matter what heinous things he's called us in the past.
Trump! 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 Trump!
If you enjoy the video, consider dropping a like and subscribing. We greatly appreciate it, and let's dive in. Now, Trump's pick for Secretary of Health and Human Services has a long history of scathing critiques against Trump, labeling him a, quote, threat to democracy, a bully, and as recent as July, a, quote, terrible president. But Kennedy's harshest attacks date back to Trump's rise in 2016, with comments he made on his podcast, Ring of Fire, which sounds less like a podcast title and more like a description of Trump's inner circle or RFK's sexual escapades. Was it the cheating that led his second wife to unalive herself, or was it the chlamydia? Damn! On the podcast, Kennedy applauded descriptions of Trump's base as, quote, belligerent idiots, and suggestions that some were, quote, outright Yahtzees, and, quote, spineless fellow travelers. Kennedy also likened Trump to historical demagogues like Adolfo and Benito Mussolini, accusing Trump of exploiting societal insecurities and xenophobia to amass power. And after Trump won in 2016, Kennedy concluded in one episode from December of that year that Trump was at least in one way not like Schmittler, because Schmittler was interested in policy. And when the silver lining of being compared to Adolfo is that at least you're not as adept at policy, you might be a dictator. So let's take a listen to exactly what the head of Health and Human Services had to say about his boss baby, and then break down how, actually, that was just the brainworm talking.
You know, one of the things that you write so beautifully, and your stuff is so fun to read, but you write about Trump. Quote, the way that you build a truly vicious nationalist movement is to wed a relatively small core of belligerent idiots to a much larger group of opportunists and spineless fellow travelers whose primary function is to turn a blind eye to things. We may not have that many outright nominees in America, but we have plenty of cowards and bootlickers, and once those fleshy dominoes start tumbling into the Trump camp, the game is up. When you talk about fleshy dominoes, Chris Christie comes to mind.
Damn, I mean, I'm all for bashing Chris Christie, but fleshy dominoes sounds more like how Trump would refer to his assault approach to intercourse.
I took her for I moved on her like a but I couldn't get there, and she was married.
I'm gonna come.
But misogyny, assault, and fascism are yet again just the tip of the conservative family values iceberg. Here is another clip of RFK talking candidly about Trump's racism.
The easiest thing for a politician to do is to appeal to fear. And you can see that every statement that Donald Trump makes is fear-based. Every statement he makes. You know, we have to be fear of the Muslims. We have to be fear of the black people, and particularly the big black guy, Obama, who's destroying this country, who's making everybody miserable, and only one person has the genius and the capacity to solve these things. I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to do it. Just trust in me, vote for me, and everything will be great again. And of course that is a really, that whole thing is like a carnival barker But carnival barkers make a lot of money. And, as the most famous carnival barker of all time said, P.T. Barnum, you can fool, let me paraphrase, a lot of the people a lot of the time.
Yeah, gotta be afraid of the big black guy. I guess that's why there's a conspicuous lack of melanin in Trump's cabinet picks. So much for them black jobs, right?
The fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now.
Is it really the immigrants taking those black jobs, baby balls? Or is it your Caucasian clown car cabinet?
That's cute, because I remember when your name came up as a potential Speaker of the House. Right. There were many who speculated that based on the prominent role you played in this campaign and election, that your name would have skyrocketed to at least the front of the line. We are several cabinet picks in. Are you not surprised that you have not been named? Have you had a conversation about being a part of the administration at all?
All I will say is I am not surprised that I have not been named, but that does not mean I'm not going to do other things in the future.
Has he asked you?
No, there's some other things that I'm looking at going forward.
But just like every other apologist a-hole kissing the diarrhea-laden ass cheeks of Big Mac McFascist, RFK, even after also attacking Trump's views on the environment,
We're going to drill a baby drill.
came full ring of fire and bent the knee, apologizing for his previous strong views that he no longer holds now that his brain is full of holes. Saying in a statement to CNN, "Like many Americans, I allowed myself to believe the mainstream media's distorted dystopian portrait of President Trump. I no longer hold this belief and now regret having made those comments." What a stand-up role model of integrity and fighting for your purported beliefs. And like I mentioned earlier, maggots are relishing in the fact that all of these lying sycophants who called them worse things than Hillary's deplorable comment are now having a genuine change of heart because they have a shot at power. And it's just so depressingly ironic that these are the same people cheering wrestling billionaire Linda McMahon being appointed the Secretary of Education, the head of the department Trump wants to eradicate completely, because clearly the one thing this country needs is to do away with critical thinking and instead make suplexing part of the core curriculum. Buckle up, folks.
It's gonna be a bumpy f***ing ride.
Smash that like button and subscribe to join the resistance, and God willing, I'll see you all in the next one.
It's the enemy from within.
Yes.
Damn right. This isn't their Republican Party anymore.
This is not a normal election.
Whether the women like it or not.
Suck my fat one.
Who's with me?
Trust me.
Shut the f*** up, Dan.
Who's with me? Oh yeah, the lie.
Indictable.
Out of sheer morbid curiosity, I'm allowing this freak show to continue.
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
Tick-tock.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I think he's crazy.